Have you ever been told that kindness is a virtue? That being kind is the key to happiness, success, and fulfillment? Well, what if I told you that kindness, this seemingly innocent and universally praised trait, might actually be ruining your life? Yes, you heard that right. Kindness, when left unchecked, can hold you back in ways you never imagined. Think about it. How often have you gone out of your way to help someone, even when it cost you time, energy, or peace of mind? Maybe you lent money to a friend who never repaid you. Or perhaps you canceled your own plans to assist someone, only to feel unappreciated or even resentful afterward. Deep down, you might wonder, why do I always end up being the one who sacrifices? This isn't just about individual moments, it's about a pattern. When kindness becomes your default mode, it can lead to subtle but significant consequences. You may find yourself stretched too thin, taken for granted, or even losing sight of your own goals. And while everyone around you might sing your praises, you're left feeling drained, unfulfilled, and wondering what went wrong. The truth is, society often romanticizes kindness. We're told to be the bigger person, turn the other cheek, or give without expecting anything in return. But no one talks about the dark side of kindness, the times when it stops being a strength and starts becoming a weakness. Here's where it gets personal. Many of us confuse kindness with people-pleasing. We fear conflict, rejection, or being labeled as selfish, so we bend over backward to make others happy. We say yes when we mean no. We prioritize others' needs over our own, hoping it will bring harmony, but it rarely does. Instead, we end up exhausted, resentful, and silently asking ourselves, is this really worth it? Kindness without boundaries can trap us in a cycle of guilt and obligation. It can rob us of our authenticity, stifle our ambitions, and leave us vulnerable to exploitation. It's like pouring water into a bucket with a hole. You can keep giving, but you'll never feel full. But here's the good news. Kindness doesn't have to be your downfall. When balanced with self-care, boundaries, and authenticity, it can become your greatest strength. This isn't about abandoning kindness altogether. It's about redefining it. True kindness doesn't mean sacrificing yourself for others. It means treating yourself with the same compassion and respect you give to everyone else. In this video, we're going to explore how kindness, if left unchecked, can hold you back, and how you can reclaim it as a source of strength. By the end, you'll learn practical strategies to set boundaries, embrace your true self, and use kindness in a way that empowers both you and the people around you. So let's dive into the hidden cost of being too nice and what you can do to turn it around. Imagine this. A coworker asks if you can cover their shift because they really need a day off. You don't want to let them down, so you say yes, even though you already have plans. Then the same coworker asks again and again until it feels like you're the one always picking up the slack. Sound familiar? This is one of the most common ways kindness can backfire. It leaves you open to exploitation. When you're too kind, people start to see you as an easy option. It's not necessarily because they're bad people, but because human nature often leans toward convenience. If you're always saying yes, dropping everything to help, or bending over backward to make others happy, you unintentionally send a message. My time, energy, and well-being aren't as important as yours. This dynamic often starts small, doing a favor here, lending a hand there. But it can snowball quickly. Before you know it, you're the go-to person for everyone's problems. They'll borrow your time, money, and emotional energy without a second thought. And because you're kind, you keep giving, even when it starts to hurt. The problem isn't just the toll it takes on your time or resources. It's the emotional drain. When people take advantage of your kindness, it can leave you feeling unappreciated, resentful, and even used. And let's be honest, how many of those people are there for you when you're the one in need? Far too often, the answer is not many. Take a moment to reflect. How many times have you helped someone, only to be met with silence or indifference when you needed support? It's a painful realization, but it's one that many kind-hearted people face. And it's not just about feeling unappreciated. It's about the deeper cost of losing yourself in the process. Let's look at a bigger picture. This pattern doesn't just affect your personal relationships. It can seep into every aspect of your life. Maybe you're always the one volunteering for extra tasks at work, staying late while others clock out on time. Or perhaps you're the friend who's always on call, ready to lend an ear or a helping hand, even when you're struggling yourself. Over time, this constant giving takes a toll on your mental and physical health. The Bible offers a profound insight here. Guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Proverbs 4:23. This isn't just a call to protect your emotions, it's a reminder that your energy, focus, and well-being are finite resources. If you give without limits, you risk depleting yourself entirely. The key takeaway? Kindness is not a weakness, but it becomes one when it lacks boundaries. Protecting your time and energy isn't selfish, it's essential. By setting clear limits and being intentional about where you direct your kindness, you can stop others from exploiting your generosity and reclaim your sense of balance. Have you ever found yourself saying yes to something you didn't want to do, just to avoid disappointing someone else? Maybe you stayed silent during a disagreement because you didn't want to rock the boat. Or perhaps you felt guilty for putting your own needs first, worrying that others might see you as selfish or unkind. This is the psychological trap of people-pleasing, and it's one of the most destructive consequences of unchecked kindness. People-pleasing often stems from a desire to be liked, accepted, or even loved. It feels good when others approve of us, and it's painful to think we might upset someone by saying no or asserting ourselves. But when this need for approval takes over, it can come at a tremendous cost: your sense of self. The more you prioritize others' needs over your own, the more you send an unspoken message. My feelings, my needs, and my opinions don't matter. Over time, this can chip away at your self-worth. You start to believe that your value comes solely from what you can do for others, not from who you are. And once you fall into this mindset, it's incredibly hard to break free. One of the dangers of being a people pleaser is that it often turns you into a yes person. You go along with others' plans, agree with their opinions, and suppress your own thoughts, just to avoid conflict or rejection. But here's the problem. When you constantly put others' needs first, they start to expect it. They come to see you as someone who will always accommodate them, no matter the cost to yourself. And when you finally try to assert yourself, when you say no for the first time or share a differing opinion, it often shocks the people around you. They might accuse you of being selfish, unkind, or even unrecognizable. After all, they've grown used to a version of you that exists solely to make their lives easier. But let's pause here. Is it truly selfish to stand up for yourself? Is it unkind to say no when something doesn't align with your priorities or values? The Bible offers a wise perspective. Let your yes be yes and your no, no. Matthew 5:37. In other words, honesty and clarity are acts of integrity, not selfishness. C.S. Lewis also touches on this struggle when he writes, "Integrity is doing the right thing, even when no one is watching." True kindness isn't about bending to others' expectations. It's about being authentic, even if it means disappointing someone in the short term. Breaking free from the cycle of people-pleasing isn't easy, especially if you've spent years putting others first. But it starts with small, intentional acts. Practice saying no to things that don't serve you. Speak up when you have a different opinion, even if it feels uncomfortable. And most importantly, remind yourself that your value doesn't depend on anyone else's approval. In today's competitive world, being too kind can come at a steep cost, especially in your career. The phrase "nice guys finish last" might sound harsh, but there's a grain of truth to it. When kindness turns into passivity, it can hold you back from reaching your full potential. Think about the workplace dynamics you've experienced. Have you ever seen someone else get credit for work you contributed to because you stayed quiet? Or perhaps you've hesitated to speak up during a meeting because you didn't want to seem pushy. Maybe you've passed on opportunities to avoid stepping on someone's toes. While these actions might feel polite in the moment, they often lead to missed opportunities and a lack of recognition. The truth is, success in the professional world requires more than just talent and hard work. It demands assertiveness, confidence, and sometimes the willingness to ruffle a few feathers. When you're overly kind, you might find yourself hesitating to ask for what you deserve: a raise, a promotion, or a chance to lead a project, because you don't want to appear selfish or overly ambitious. This reluctance can lead to a vicious cycle. You stay in the background, working hard and hoping someone will notice. But in most cases, the people who get ahead are the ones who aren't afraid to advocate for themselves. They're the ones who step up, take risks, and make their voices heard. Consider this. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, "To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven." Just as there's a time for kindness, there's also a time for assertiveness. Advocating for yourself isn't an act of selfishness, it's an act of self-respect. And when done with grace, it doesn't diminish your kindness, it enhances your credibility and confidence. Let's also not forget C.S. Lewis's wisdom. Courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point. Applying courage to your kindness means standing firm when it matters, even in professional settings. To thrive in your career, you must learn to balance kindness with boldness. Speak up when you deserve credit. Take risks even if it feels uncomfortable. And above all, remind yourself that putting your needs first doesn't mean putting others down. It means valuing yourself enough to take the opportunities you've worked hard to earn. Kindness, when overextended, can lead to an unintended and deeply personal consequence: the loss of authenticity. In the pursuit of being kind and avoiding conflict, many of us start to suppress our true selves. We hold back our opinions, stifle our desires, and present a version of ourselves that feels safer but is far from genuine. Imagine being in a conversation where you disagree with someone, but choose to stay silent because you don't want to upset them, or agreeing to plans you don't enjoy just to keep the peace. These small moments of compromise might seem harmless at first, but over time, they add up. Each instance where you censor yourself chips away at your identity, leaving you feeling disconnected from who you truly are. When you prioritize being liked over being honest, you risk creating shallow, one-sided relationships. People may enjoy your company because you're accommodating and agreeable, but they aren't connecting with the real you. And deep down, you might start to resent those interactions, knowing that you're not being fully seen or valued for who you are. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "We are what we believe we are." When you consistently hide your true thoughts and feelings to protect others' comfort, you begin to believe that your authentic self isn't good enough. This self-censorship doesn't just affect your relationships with others, it impacts your relationship with yourself. You might start to feel like a fraud, trapped in a life that doesn't align with your values or desires. The Bible also speaks to the importance of authenticity. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. John 8:32. Living authentically means embracing the truth of who you are and having the courage to share it with the world, even if it's uncomfortable at times. Authenticity is a form of kindness, not just to yourself, but to those around you. When you show up as your true self, you give others permission to do the same. Balancing kindness and authenticity isn't about being blunt or insensitive. It's about expressing your thoughts and feelings honestly while respecting others. It's about saying no when you need to and standing firm in your convictions, even if it means facing conflict. Ultimately, true kindness comes from a place of self-awareness and self-respect. It's not about pleasing everyone. It's about creating genuine, meaningful connections built on trust and mutual understanding. Kindness is one of the greatest virtues, but like any virtue, it needs balance. Without boundaries, kindness can leave you feeling drained, unappreciated, and disconnected from yourself. The good news? You don't have to choose between being kind and taking care of yourself. The two can coexist, and when they do, they create a life filled with purpose, respect, and genuine connection. The first step to balancing kindness with self-care is learning to say no. For many of us, this can feel uncomfortable, even unnatural. We worry about disappointing others or being seen as selfish. But saying no doesn't mean you're unkind. It means you're prioritizing your own well-being. As the Bible reminds us, let your yes be yes and your no, no. Matthew 5:37. Saying no when you need to is an act of integrity, both to yourself and to those around you. Another key to this balance is setting boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're guidelines to ensure that your kindness doesn't come at the expense of your mental and emotional health. For example, If a friend consistently asks for favors without reciprocating, it's okay to let them know what you're comfortable with. Setting boundaries not only protects you, but also teaches others to value and respect your time and energy. Lewis offers profound insight here. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. In other words, self-care isn't about putting yourself above others. It's about ensuring that you're strong enough to give from a place of abundance rather than exhaustion. When you're well rested, confident, and secure in your boundaries, your acts of kindness become more impactful and meaningful. Authenticity is the final piece of the puzzle. To be truly kind, you must also be true to yourself. This means expressing your thoughts, feelings, and needs openly, even when it's difficult. When you show up as your authentic self, you foster deeper, more meaningful connections with the people around you. As John 8:32 says, the truth will set you free. Let's return to the idea that the greatest kindness you can show the world is to be kind to yourself first. Imagine what your life could look like if you approached kindness with balance. You'd have the energy to pursue your goals, the confidence to stand up for yourself, and the peace of mind that comes from living authentically. You'd build relationships based on mutual respect and shared values, not one-sided expectations. Here's a challenge for you. This week, take one small step toward balancing kindness and self-care. Maybe it's saying no to a request that doesn't align with your priorities. Maybe it's setting a boundary with someone who's been taking advantage of your generosity. Or perhaps it's simply speaking your truth in a situation where you'd normally stay silent. As you begin to practice this balance, you'll notice a shift, not just in how others treat you, but in how you see yourself. You'll feel more empowered, more respected, and more at peace. And the best part? By being kind to yourself, you're setting an example for others to do the same. The world doesn't need you to be a doormat. It needs you to be strong, authentic, and kind in a way that uplifts both yourself and those around you. So go out there and be kind, but remember to take care of yourself first, because when you do, everything else will fall into place.